you also touch on that. I mean, a lot of these people are fucking sketchy folks, and you're exposing how stupid their activity were. Does that ever creep you out? You ever get nervous? Like, because you're making these documentaries mocking these people, and rightly so, but it's not Cocaine Cowboys wasn't really mocking, it's more exposing, but this one is like openly mocking. This one's really good, man. It's really funny. And it comes out March 29th?
Yes, sir. Friday. Yeah. And April 5th on VOD. Yeah. And well, this one's tough because this is like a fresh wound for a lot of people.
Comes on Netflix March 29th?
No, VOD. No, I'm sorry. Theaters March 29th and VOD April 5th. So like iTunes, Amazon, pay-per-view on your cable box.
What kind of release are you going to get in the theaters?
Starting out with 12 cities on Friday the 29th, and then,
is it LA?
Oh yeah, for sure, at the Lemley Music Hall.
Oh,
3,
great.
And then where else? I think San Francisco, Boston, Miami, Orlando. There's like 12 cities, and then I guess depending on how well it does, it's being put out by Greenwich Entertainment, who just won the Oscar for Free Solo for Best Documentary.
Awesome.
So they know what they're doing, and like I said, hopefully people will go see it. And listen, I hope it's a comedy. I think it's a comedy.
It's a comedy.
We tried to make it.
I was laughing my ass off. I was doing chin-ups and laughing. I was like, what the fuck, man? That fucking guy, the tanner, what's his name again?
Porter Fisher.
Porter, that guy, like, what? I just imagine if you got one of those guys in your life and he's just stuck in your life. You're like, shit, how do I get this fucking guy out of my life? And the fact that he borrowed money from this guy and then didn't
loan money to this guy. Yeah, Porter loaned it to Tony.
Yeah. Tony borrowed money from Porter and then didn't pay him, and that's what caused this whole thing. It is Alex Rodriguez has got to be pulling his fucking hair out, going, what in the fuck?
And Alex was paying everybody. So was MLB. I mean, everyone was running amok in Miami, like just hiring private investigators, running people down. Alex Rodriguez, actually, this isn't in the documentary, but when these convicted felons stole the stolen documents from Porter Fisher, who had stolen the documents from Tony Bosch, they set him up in this whole... It's so absurd. It's fucking tanning salon heist where they're like, hey, why don't you go in and try this new spray tan color? It's Trumpian orange. Go try it on. And while he's in the fucking spray tan machine, they open his car and steal these documents, which have these client lists of all these famous baseball players, including the highest paid baseball player in the world, A-Rod. And so they steal it, and then they turn around and sell these stolen documents to Major League Baseball for cash. So MLB has this ragtag band of misfits, this internal FBI, like their own internal investigations division that they created after the Balco steroid scandal. They're running amok. They are seducing nurses, former nurses from Tony Bosch's clinics. They are literally in diners with convicted felons handing over bags of cash from some MLB slush fund. I don't imagine they were going to 1099 the guy. And I don't know where this cash came from, $125,000. And what they did is that the felon who was doing it had a buddy at a neighboring table at this diner with his cell phone video recording this transaction. And then he turned around and went to A-Rod's camp and said, I'll sell you a video of me selling known stolen documents. Everybody knew these documents were stolen. So MLB's buying these stolen records, stolen evidence in the state of Florida Department of Health investigation for cash from a felon. At some point, he gets like freaked out and nervous, and he deletes this video off the hard drive. He winds up selling A-Rod a blank hard drive for 6 figures, okay? And A-Rod sends this hard drive, A-Rod's people send this hard drive around the world to like data recovery services to try to get this video back. So unfortunately, the felon didn't get his second 6-figure payment because that was the first 6 figures were against the recovery of the debt. But he got like $200,000-300,000 to sell A-Rod a blank hard drive. And A-Rod's dropping money on private investigators who were like having car chases through South Miami. It was just totally crazy. And it's like, I always say, like, you come down to the swamp and roll around, you're going to get some mud on you. So when MLB came down to Miami, one of the guys, Jerome Hill, the former Baltimore cop turned Florida Department of Health investigator, he says unequivocally that Major League Baseball's investigators broke the law in the state of Florida and should have been prosecuted for it and held accountable for it, and never were. I mean, it's good to be a multi-billion-dollar monopoly.
Well, how old was A-Rod when the scandal broke?
A-Rod was definitely towards the end of his career, and so that's the interesting thing about, because let's be real, I don't give a shit about steroids in baseball, and this era of steroids in baseball was not the same as the other, the Barry Bonds, kind of era of steroids in baseball. These were not guys, with necks the size of my waist or anything like that. They were microdosing, and it was HGH and testosterone. And a lot of these guys, I mean, listen, their livelihoods are contingent upon their physical performance.
Yes.
And so you got to play 162 games in 180 days. It's the most physically grueling schedule of any of the professional sports. And guys have always been looking for an edge. In the 1950s, the Yankees were going out to Copacabana all fucking night.
Apparently, there's an Adderall issue with baseball as well.
Absolutely. A disproportionate number of baseball players compared to the general population are on Adderall. That's why I said it's a performance enhancing drug. But you had guys like Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford and Billy Martin partying all night at the Copacabana. They have to make a 1 p.m. game, maybe even a doubleheader. They're doing greenies. They're doing amphetamines. Mm-hmm. It's always been a part of baseball is finding that edge. Right. Now, you got guys who are just looking to maybe recover a little faster, who from injuries or fatigue. You're looking for guys who are looking to maintain peak performance for a longer period than their bodies might have otherwise allowed. Is it that big of a deal? I don't know.
It's not, and it's a weird deal. It's a weird thing that we have an issue with. Look, if they did the same sort of stringent testing with NFL players, you'd find out that everyone's on steroids. That's just a fact. You don't get people that big, and they do catch them every now and then. But I feel like it's like one of those things where, how the drug cartels, they'll let some drug shipments get busted so that the other ones will get through. I almost feel like that's what they do with NFL players that get caught. Like, oh, look, we're testing. We caught somebody.
Dude, that's what this was with A-Rod. Bud Selig is the steroid commissioner. Full stop. That's the bottom line. His tenure was marked by the famous,
Barry
home run
Bonds,
derby.
Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa.
Absolutely. So he knowingly, I believe, exploited and profited from that era of baseball that really saved them after the 94 players strike. I mean, baseball.
If you just look at the size of those guys.
Where they started.
Yeah. I mean, so many of them.
We literally morphed them in the documentary. We morphed them from like a before and after because they turn into fucking baseball monsters, smacking balls to Guantanamo, for Christ's sake.
You know what's interesting to me is that some people recovered from that stuff and some people did not. Jose Canseco never recovered. He never recovered in the public eye.
And that's why he's so pissed. That's why it's fucked up when you're the pioneer in something. People really, and dude, they had a street named after him in Miami. Yeah, and they quietly took that shit down in the middle of the night after decades of naming that street from. He was just totally humiliated. And
I think it's also because he ratted out a lot of guys.
So did A-Rod. A-Rod leaked names to try to distract or diffuse.
But he didn't put out a book.
Yeah, but
it's the public nature of Canseco's book. It's like, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
But his book was his book turned out to be like the Jose Canseco's book about steroids turned out to be like the Steele dossier of baseball. It's like everybody thinks it's pissed and thinks it's a bunch of bullshit. And then over time, it's slowly proven true. Right. And at the end, there's a P tape.
Yes.
I think that metaphor holds.
Yeah, well, that's